Hello, welcome to the YouTube channel, your health channel. Before watching, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel to support the creator. Enjoy the video. I'm Dr. John, and today's discussion might just safeguard your autonomy. If you're past 60, your skeletal structure is deteriorating more rapidly than you might realize, and the odds are subtly shifting against your favor. 1 out of every 2 women over the age of 50 will experience a fracture due to osteoporosis, while for men, that figure is 1 in 4. Tragically, almost 30% of individuals do not survive the year following a hip fracture. We're discussing bone diminution, a process that is silent, undetectable, and often announces its presence through a life-altering injury. But what if dedicating just 5 minutes each day could alter this trajectory? No pharmaceutical interventions, no mechanical aids, merely you and your own physicality. To elucidate this, we are once again honored by the presence of Japan's most venerable practicing physician, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara. He's well over 100 years of age, maintains his mobility, continues his professional practice, and assists patients in reversing conditions widely presumed to be irreversible. Dr. Hinohara, it's a pleasure to welcome you back. Thank you, John. And as always, I am delighted to be here, particularly when we are addressing a subject so deeply personal and profoundly impactful. The loss of bone resilience doesn't commence with a fracture. It begins when we cease to move with deliberate intention. When we remain sedentary for extended periods, neglect proper flexion, and disregard the subtle communications our bodies send, over time, the very framework that supports us starts to falter. However, the truth is this: it doesn't have to be this way. I have witnessed 70-year-olds regain their equilibrium, 80-year-olds reverse bone degeneration, and 90-year-olds stand taller, all without the necessity of medication or equipment. The variable was not their age, but their attentiveness. 5 minutes daily. That's where the transformation starts. And before we delve deeper, I wish to pose a question to everyone tuning in. When was the last instance you felt truly grounded and stable within your own being? Was it merely last week, perhaps a decade ago, or are you still in a state of anticipation? Regardless of your current circumstances, I would be delighted if you shared that reflection in the comments section, as the journey toward restoration begins with acknowledging your present state. That is an exceptionally insightful framing, not as a process of decline, but rather as a disconnect. It suggests that bones don't simply break, they weaken when we cease to interact with them. And as you pose that question about stability, it brings to mind some of my own patients. There was a woman in her 70s who once confided, "I used to be taller," and she wasn't solely referring to her physical stature, but also her spirit. I recall a gentleman in his late 60s who stopped using the stairs, not because he had fallen, but due to a burgeoning uncertainty in his knees. There had been no incident, merely a creeping apprehension. That sense of diminishment, that hesitation, the feeling that frailty was setting in. So, let us explore how to reverse this trend. For individuals over 60, perhaps experiencing some stiffness or noticing postural changes when they glimpse themselves in a mirror, where should they commence? What does the initial day of this new approach look like? If their objective is to fortify themselves from within, the first step is to grasp what their bodies are still capable of achieving. Because it is within that belief, that perceived possibility, that the genuine work truly begins. Bones may seem inert, hidden, and unyielding, but they are not static. They are living entities, responsive and continuously adapting to the cues we provide. So, you're suggesting that our bones are not immutable. They are in a constant state of flux. Precisely. Most individuals envision bones as akin to stone, gradually wearing away over time. However, this is an inaccurate perception. Within each bone, there are microscopic entities responsible for renewal and breakdown, osteoblasts and osteoclasts. One population dismantles aged tissue, while the other reconstructs it with enhanced strength. And here lies the crucial point. Their work never ceases, not even in one's 70s or 90s. But they require a purpose, they necessitate input, they thrive on movement. This is a stark contrast to the conventional discourse surrounding aging bones, where terms like brittle, fragile, and declining are often employed, as if their potential has already been extinguished. I have always found this perspective regrettable, as it discourages individuals prematurely. Yes, We do experience a natural reduction in bone density as we age. However, diminished density does not dictate our destiny. What holds greater significance is how we utilize our existing bone mass and how we stimulate new growth. So, the body is perpetually attentive. Always. The pertinent question is, what messages are we conveying to it? All too frequently, the implicit message is that we are no longer required. We refrain from bending when our joints protest, we cease reaching when our back becomes stiff, and we avoid walking when we feel unsteady. However, the bones interpret these actions as a cessation of communication. And silence, in this context, signifies deterioration. Precisely, bones require engagement, not forceful exertion nor demanding workouts, but rather gentle, consistent motion. This is how they ascertain their continued relevance. That sends a shiver down my spine, as I believe a great number of listeners have curtailed their physical activity, not out of a lack of desire, but due to apprehension. And I comprehend that fear. I have witnessed it firsthand. However, the remedy is not immobility, but rather safe, deliberate, and gradual movement. Because when you engage in movement judiciously, even for a few minutes each day, your body responds. I've observed individuals who hadn't stood upright for years gradually regain inches in their stature, not through physical growth, but through rediscovery. Rediscovery of what, precisely? How to stand upright. Yes. And how to move, how to maintain proper alignment, how to breathe. And most importantly, how to place trust in their own bodies once more. That is, in essence, what we are reconstructing. Not merely bone, but self-belief. So, once an individual grasps this fundamental concept, that their bones remain receptive and capable of change, what is the subsequent action? What does this translate to in practical terms? What are we actually instructing the body to do? We are prompting it to re-establish connection. And we commence with the most fundamental element, posture. Not posture in the sense of rigidly sitting upright, as a school teacher might instruct, but posture as in optimal alignment, a sense of presence, allowing gravity to flow through you rather than feeling its oppressive weight. To achieve this, we utilize something that is invariably accessible, a wall. No specialized mats, no mirrors are required. Simply you and a vertical surface to offer feedback on your positioning. However, to reiterate for our listeners, this is not an activity they should attempt spontaneously at this very moment. Is that correct? Correct. Please, exercise caution. This is not a competitive endeavor, nor is it an examination. It is an introduction. My intention is for individuals to comprehend the possibilities, not to feel pressured to perform. In fact, when I initially introduced this practice to my patients, I advise them not to strive for perfection. Instead, I encourage them to anticipate experiencing something novel. As often, it is the heightened awareness that proves more significant than the movement itself. So, could you guide us through the visualization of this practice, simply so that people can form a mental picture? Absolutely. Envision yourself standing gently with your back positioned towards a wall. Your heels should be close to the wall, but without any undue strain. Your shoulder blades should make contact, or at least move gently towards touching the surface. If possible, allow the back of your head to rest against the wall. If this is not achievable, no concern. Simply acknowledging that distance is an integral part of the exercise. Then, take 2 slow inhalations through your nose, followed by exhalations through your mouth. As you exhale, allow yourself to feel the settling effect of gravity, to sense your spine rediscovering its natural alignment. There is no need to pull or to force any correction. Simply be present. And what is transpiring within the body during this process? Far more than most individuals realize. Subtle postural muscles begin to engage, particularly those along the spine and within the deep core musculature. These are the intrinsic stabilizers that quietly maintain our upright stance. And when they are activated, even for a few minutes, they transmit a potent message to the bones. You are vital here. That is the precise signal we are seeking. Not strain, not discomfort, but rather that quiet awakening. That makes a great deal of sense. And honestly, it reshapes my perspective on strength. Because when the concept of bone health is mentioned, the majority of people envision calcium supplements or weight training equipment, rather than tranquil moments spent at a wall. However, what you are describing feels more intelligent, more intrinsically human. I have encountered patients who harbored a reluctance towards exercise, believing it had to be strenuous to be beneficial. But this feels like an invitation, something gentle enough to attempt, yet impactful enough to yield meaningful results. So what transpires next? Once an individual has located that optimal posture, that aligned position against the wall, what constitutes the subsequent step in this 5-minute regimen? Upon discovering that aligned position, even if only for a brief duration, we proceed to incorporate subtle, controlled movements. Nothing extreme, merely a slow raising of the arms while maintaining contact with the wall. I refer to this as the snow angel motion. With elbows flexed, hands glide upwards and downwards along the wall, maintaining a goalpost configuration. While this may seem rudimentary, it effectively engages a cascade of postural muscles, the scapular stabilizers, the thoracic extensors, and even the deep core muscles. And it is this interconnected series of muscles, when utilized consistently, that serves to mitigate the risk of falls and restore an upright posture. That is truly remarkable. And to substantiate this with scientific evidence, are there studies that support these types of subtle, alignment-focused movements? Yes, there are, and the body of research is expanding. A study published in the Journal of Geriatric Physical Therapy in 2015 found that targeted postural exercises resulted in improved spinal curvature and enhanced balance in women over the age of 65 diagnosed with osteopenia. Another investigation reported in Osteoporosis International demonstrated that gentle, resistance-free training, including exercises performed against a wall, led to an increase in bone density in the spine and hip when maintained consistently over a 12-month period. The critical factor here is not the intensity of the effort, but its constancy. 5 minutes daily transmits a more potent stimulus than 1 hour of strenuous activity per week. This is because bones do not respond to brute force. They respond to rhythm. They respond to dependability. That last statement, that bones respond to rhythm, not force, is something that will certainly resonate with me. And I suspect, for many individuals listening at this very moment, that singular concept may provide the necessary shift in perspective, as it implies they haven't missed their opportunity. It signifies that their bodies are still actively listening. They are. The body consistently listens. Even when we reduce our physical engagement compared to past habits, it continues to be attentive. And the inherent beauty of this approach lies in its cumulative effect. You are not expected to observe immediate results from the first day. That is not how the human body operates. The initial day might simply involve recognizing the sensation of standing with proper alignment, of breathing with conscious awareness. However, within days, subtle changes begin to manifest. Movements become smoother. The spine feels more adequately supported. The body begins to reacquire a sense of self-assurance. And that renewed confidence transmits a profound message deep within, reaching even your bones. Because osteoporosis is not merely a matter of calcium depletion, it is a consequence of disrupted communication. Bones are living tissues. Our skeletal structure undergoes continuous renewal through a process known as mechanotransduction. This signifies that bones react to physical stimuli such as pressure, proper alignment, and the stresses of weight-bearing movement. So, what precisely occurs when these critical signals cease? Consider individuals who spend the majority of their day seated, engaging in minimal physical activity, perhaps even avoiding movement due to apprehension or ingrained habits. What transpires within the bones during this prolonged period of inactivity? Bone formation decelerates, while bone resorption accelerates, leading to a gradual diminution of bone density over time. This is the fundamental nature of osteoporosis, a subtle disparity between the rate of material removal and the rate of rebuilding. The encouraging news, however, is that even modest yet consistent physical engagement, such as the types we have been discussing, can positively influence this delicate balance. Research published in Osteoporosis International and the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research has demonstrated that incorporating postural exercises and resistance training with low impact can lead to an increase in bone mineral density among older adults. It doesn't merely maintain it, it actually enhances it. This is a truly impactful revelation, and I believe people need to understand that their bones retain the capacity to grow, to respond, and to regenerate. Absolutely. And I have witnessed this transformation firsthand. One of my patients, Mr. Fuja, who is 79 years old, presented with a slight stoop. He shared following a mere 3 weeks of adhering to this straightforward regimen. He reported to me he adopted a more upright posture and moved with greater stability, not as a result of increased exertion, but because his body finally received the correct cues. That is the true benefit. It extends beyond simply strengthening the bones. It involves reclaiming one's assurance in navigating the world. And this is the sentiment that truly resonates with me from our discussion today. The objective isn't to recapture lost youth. It's not about striving for more activity. It's about performing actions correctly. It's about sending the right signals, gently and consistently, until your body remembers its innate ability to support you. Because while 5 minutes a day may not seem significant, after absorbing the scientific evidence, the personal accounts, and the remarkable way the body continues to respond even after extended periods of dormancy, those 5 minutes begin to feel like a lifeline. Dr. Hinohara, as always, I am deeply grateful for your profound wisdom and clear insights. Before we conclude, if you were to leave our listeners with a single message, what would it be? Engage in gentle movement daily. Do so not out of a sense of fragility, but out of the recognition that you are still alive. Remember this, everyone. You are still alive, and we are immensely proud of you. If you enjoyed this episode, please show your appreciation with a like and feel free to share any questions you may have. We value each and every one of you. And to those present here in the studio, my sincere thanks once again. This program would not be possible without your support. We look forward to connecting with you next time.